found in an Airbnb they had rented in Mexico to celebrate the Day of the Dead. News station Wavy reports that 28-year-old Kandace Florence was staying at the Airbnb with her 28-year-old high school pal, Jordan Marshall, along with Marshall's friend, Cortez Hall, in celebration of the holiday, which is held on November 1st and 2nd. A State Department spokesperson confirmed to People the deaths of 3 U.S. citizens in the country and added, "We're closely monitoring local authorities' investigation into the cause of death. We stand ready to provide all appropriate consular assistance." The spokesperson said that out of respect for the privacy of the families, there is nothing further to add at this time. Per Wavy, on October 30th, Kandace was talking to her boyfriend and told him she wasn't feeling well. She began to get sick while they were on the phone, and the call dropped. After he was unable to get a hold of Kandace, her boyfriend contacted the Airbnb host and asked if they could check in on the trio. Authorities reportedly arrived and they were all found dead. The families of Kandace and Jordan have spoken out, demanding answers as to what happened to them. Jordan's mother told WTKR that the Mexican police were not very forthcoming with information and added that the language barrier was incredibly difficult as well. Kandace's mother told WTKR of her daughter's death, quote, "The biggest question was, where do we start?" She continued by opening up about Kandace, saying, "Think of positivity and mindfulness." Meanwhile, Cortez's mother shared that he was a social studies teacher in New Orleans and called him joyous. According to multiple reports, he was 33 years old.
Okay, so y'all heard that story right there, and before I actually get into the story itself, let me offer my condolences to all 3 of these individuals' families. I know that is a call or news that no one wants to hear, especially when it comes to your loved one. All they were doing was going down to Mexico to have a good time, and then stuff like this happens. And you want to know what's so crazy? Stuff like this is not uncommon. I'm not going to say it happens every day, but it's not uncommon, and it's far from rare, where you have people go to other nations, maybe, just to have a good time, vacation or whatever it is, and then they turn up dead. Now, it is so many red flags all over this story, because here you have 3 friends, as you can see, they're all black. They went to Mexico to celebrate the Day of the Dead, which is something that they do down in Mexico every year. And it's like the 2 days after Halloween. And they have an Airbnb. And then all of a sudden, they all 3, quote unquote, mysteriously end up dead. Yeah, something is not passing the smell test here. And it said that in the audio that the woman right here in the middle, she called her boyfriend and was telling him that she wasn't feeling well, and then all of a sudden she just dropped dead. Like, she just felt that she wasn't feeling well, and then she just fell dead. My guess is, and this is just my assumption, is that they were poisoned. That's just my assumption, is that they were poisoned, because what's the odds that not 1, not 2, but all 3 of them stay in the same Airbnb and they all fall dead at pretty much the same time, like, or at least in the same time span? Because it's something that's just not adding up here. And like I said, you have to be very careful when you're traveling to these foreign lands, because you don't know how they're going to receive you. They probably saw 3 black Americans, or 3 black people for that matter, because they probably didn't know that they were Americans or not. They just saw 3 black people, and boom, here we go. Because like I said, this is not uncommon for something like this to happen. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened. Now I'm going to go ahead and read the article that is associated with this. It says the bodies of 3 American friends were found in an Airbnb they rented in Mexico to celebrate the Day of the Dead. Now, how ironic that they're there to celebrate the Day of the Dead and they literally fall dead. What's the irony in that? Kandace Florence, age 28, was staying at the Airbnb with high school pal Jordan Marshall, also age 28, along with Marshall's friend Cortez Hall for Dia de las Muertes, Day of the Dead, Norfolk, Virginia news station Wavy reported. The annual holiday is celebrated on November 1st and November 2nd. We can confirm the death of 3 U.S. citizens in Mexico. We are closely monitoring local authorities' investigation into the cause of death, and I'm willing to bet they probably gonna lie their asses off about what really happened. We stand ready to provide all appropriate consular assistance. A State Department spokesperson tells People, out of respect for the privacy of the families, we have nothing further to add at this time. On October 30th, Kandace was talking to her boyfriend and told him she wasn't feeling well per the outlet. She began to get sick while they were on the phone and the call dropped. After he was unable to get a hold of Kandace, her boyfriend contacted the Airbnb host and asked if they could check on the trio. Authorities arrived and they were all found dead. Like that, listen, something strange is going on here. It's one thing if it's something that happened with one person, you don't want to happen to any of them, but it's one thing if it happens with one person, but all three? And they were all found dead in the same Airbnb, which assumingly they all fell dead around the same time. I truly believe in my heart that they were poisoned. But let me continue. Kandace and Jordan's families have since spoken out and want answers about what happened to them. Jordan's sister Jasmine Marshall recalled finding out the heartbreaking news via social media on October 31st. I saw my brother's name and I read it and my heart sank. And the hardest thing was to break the news to my mom. An emotional Jasmine told CBS affiliate WTKR. Jordan's mother, Jennifer Marshall, said the family still have no clue how he and his friends died, telling WTKR the Mexican police were not very forthcoming with information. Also, the language barrier was incredibly difficult as well. See, it's something more to this. You don't just fall dead. You just don't drop dead out of nowhere unless you have some kind of underlying illness that has just taken over and consumed your body. But it looks to me like all three of these individuals were perfectly healthy. And look at their ages. 28 and 33. So they were young. I don't want to put on the tinfoil do-rag, but let me put it on right quick. I wouldn't be surprised if they were trying to go for them organs. I'm going to just leave it right there. I don't want to go any more deeper than that. His body has arrived in his and Kandace's home state of Virginia. Kandace's body will also arrive in Virginia soon. Now, this story was reported on November 8th, and I'm recording on the 12th, so it's probably already there. It's probably already been transported there. The family plans to hold a candlelight vigil on what would have been her 29th birthday, Thursday, November 10th, which was 2 days ago from me recording this video. That's crazy. So she was getting ready to turn 29. Which is probably why they were out there, was to celebrate her birthday, maybe, possibly. Kandace's mother, Frida Florence, told WTKR of her death. The biggest question was, where do we start? Opening up about her daughter, she said, think of positivity and mindfulness and love the moment you're in. Kandace hoped to spread positivity through her candle line. Her mother said, which as you can see right here in this picture, she's advertising her candle line in the picture. Cortez's mother shared that he was a social studies teacher at KIPP Memorial School in New Orleans. My son was a joyous child, Ciola Hall told the New Orleans NBC affiliate WDSU. He loved me, he loved his family, and he loved to make everyone laugh. She and his sisters had their final conversation with Cortez just days before she was informed by the U.S. Embassy of his death. Cortez was 33, according to multiple reports. It's been so hard, she told the outlet. We tried calling back over there for the funeral homes. Because of the language barrier and stuff, you cannot get anything through or really understand. Added Ciola, I would hate to see any parent or parents go through what I went through with my son. I didn't expect to hear this about my son. No one expects that. People reached out to Airbnb for comment, but did not immediately hear back. This is very sad. It's sad on multiple fronts, but it's sad overall. Like no parent or no loved one would want to get a call like this, that your loved ones die like that. Like, you think that you're going out there to have a good time, you're going on vacation. She looks like she was about to celebrate her birthday. She was, because her birthday was coming up literally like that following week. And then this happens. But yeah, it's definitely something shady going on in that town or that city in which they were at. And someone in that Airbnb, I wouldn't be surprised, is connected. And they always like to do that language barrier thing to try to make it seem like they don't understand. But I bet you if you're talking about money, they'll understand that. Everyone knows the language of money. Now, the reason why I said this is not uncommon is because I went back 2 months to a story that I wasn't even aware of that happened back in September of this year, where it says a Long Beach man aged 29 dies unexpectedly on a weekend trip with his friends in Rosarito, Mexico. And this is the man right here, whose name is Maurice Colbert. Now, the story goes from what I read is that he was out there with his friends. They were having a good time. They went to a bar or maybe a club and they were getting some drinks, meeting girls or meeting young ladies and whatnot. They said according to the story, he took a sip of his drink or just a couple sips of the drink. And all of a sudden he just collapsed and he died. So, like I said, this is not an uncommon thing. And this was just 2 months ago. This was not last year or 2 years ago. This was 2 months ago. Now, like I said, I wasn't even aware or made aware of the story because I was trying to find other stories that could have some similarities with this one, and this one popped up. But it was another story that I talked about, I think last year. It may have been last year. I think it was last year, where it was a young man. It was a black man. He was over in Mexico too, and something happened with him. But they tried to say that he was there buying drugs or something like that. I know I had got the story kind of wrong initially, but then when I got the facts right, I had to come back and do a retract type of video. Basically, first off, apologizing for putting out wrong information, and then clarifying up what I said. But it wasn't what they claimed it was, but that's what the story that they were going with to try to excuse why they did what they did. But he ended up being dead, and that was a young black man as well. So yeah, it's probably not the safest thing right now for a lot of black people to go over to Mexico. Now, again, I can't tell you where you can and you cannot travel, but all I'm saying is this: just be careful. Now, the thing about it is, this guy right here is that he was the only one that died. Now, they said he was with friends, but he's the only one that ends up dead. The one that I talked about last year, I believe he was the only one that ended up dead. The one I just reported on or just spoke on with all three of them dead, and all three of these scenarios, all three of these stories happened in Mexico. Granted, in different parts of Mexico, but in Mexico nonetheless. Something strange is really going on here. But yeah, something weird is definitely happening here when it comes to these type of stories right here. But I'm gonna say is this: if you are a black person and you are traveling, please be aware of your surroundings. That's all I can really say, because you don't know what these people's intentions are for you when you go over there. You are a foreigner in their land. Just be careful. Make sure you know of the customs, because there's a lot of people out there that have ill intentions for you. And like I said, a lot of people over there do not have your best interests at heart. Just be careful. Again, I offer my condolences to all three of these individuals. I hope their family gets the answers and the justice that they're looking for. Is probably going to be very hard because they died in a foreign land, and they're not going to try to be as much help as they possibly can, because 9 times out of 10, they are involved. Right as I was getting ready to upload the video for y'all to see the premiere for tomorrow, as I'm recording this part right here on November 16, 2022, I had to type in some information because I was typing up the description so I can put their names in the description box so you can know who they were. And what do you know? The cause of death is in this article right here. And I called this one right down the middle. I said, I bet you they were poisoned somehow, but not in the way that I thought they would. I thought something may have been slipped in their drink, but it wasn't that. It was carbon monoxide poisoning. It says it right here. Family of 3 Americans who died from carbon monoxide poisoning in a rented residence in Mexico City ahead of Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. Celebrations identified them as 2 New Orleans teachers and the owner of a Virginia Beach-based candle business. Then I scrolled down a little bit more, and it says 3 friends who were staying at an apartment they found on Airbnb in the Mexican capital city La Rosita neighborhood. The Mexico City Attorney General Office launched an investigation October 30th, looking into the death of 3 foreigners derived from possible poisoning by gas inhalation. Expert studies indicate the gas was carbon monoxide, the Attorney General's statement said. Then it says, after detecting an intense smell of gas in the apartment, security guards at a residential complex requested support from local authorities, the statement said, and the agents who arrived found the bodies of a woman and 2 men. So there it is right here. Carbon monoxide poisoning is what did it. And now it makes me have even more questions about how in the hell did that even get into their apartment, into where they were staying at in that Airbnb? How was that even possible? It's a lot of questions that need a lot of answers. And I hope the families of all 3 of these individuals get the exact answers that they're looking for.